this webinar. Today, our discussion is on crafting effective corporate strategies for turbulent business environments. It's my pleasure to welcome us all this evening to this very nice, engaging topic. As we all know, in the various turbulence that we find ourselves in modern times. To make our discussion and our meeting today very effective, we will follow some basic administrative directives for this session. I ask that we all mute our microphones so the background noise is to a minimum. Make sure that when you mute your microphone when you're not speaking. Again, be mindful of background noise as it distracts us. Please position your camera properly if you're going to be doing your live video. Limit distractions. Put all comments in the chat box if we're unable to, or raise your hand. Ensure that your device can be identified with your full name. It is very important that we have all devices with full names or we'll be forced to take you off the chat. So please, I know some of you are using phones that come out with different names. Please, if we would caution you, we'll let you if this happens. If you have any challenges during this call, we are here to support you. Our number is 02407147798. In case of any challenges, I ask that you follow us on our social media handles for any information. We are on Facebook, IoD Ghana. We are on LinkedIn, Institute of Directors Ghana. We are active on Instagram, on Twitter, and on our YouTube. My name is Clement Redu. I am the Chief Executive Officer of the Institute of Directors Ghana. This evening, our session will be 1 hour. We will take our presentation for our keynote speaker, whom I'll introduce shortly. But before I continue, it is my pleasure to invite the President and Chair of the Governing Council of the Institute of Directors Ghana to give her opening remarks. Madam President, Madam Chair, please, you're welcome to this evening Fellows Roundtable discussion on the topic, crafting effective corporate strategies for turbulent business environments. Madam, your space, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Redu. So once again, good evening to each of us. It is a pleasure to be serving you such meals, and we hope that you do enjoy them. It will be very great to receive feedback from you as well regarding the type of meals that you like to enjoy, and also regarding the timelines. We'll be getting back to you regarding some of these things in a short survey. The whole idea is to provide a platform for our fellows to do what they do best as fellows, to challenge the status quo, to challenge the assumptions that we hold about leadership and directorship, and most importantly, to continue the growth process as we all continue to sharpen our saws in our various spheres of influence. We do throw this invitation to our wider membership and also to our friends and loved ones, in the hope that as we continue to challenge ourselves in ethical leadership, we will find the critical mass necessary to grow together, to enjoy what we do together, and to sit comfortably in our spheres of influence, not standing tall in courtrooms. On this note, ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy your meal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam President and Madam Chair. On this note, I would like to introduce our resource person and the facilitator and chief discussant for today. He is an ordained Reverend Minister of the Ghana Baptist Convention and the pastor of Greater Love Baptist Church, Dawinia. He's also a management consultant, an entrepreneur, a master trainer certified by International Financial Corporation, the IFC. He has worked extensively, and he does work continuously with senior management, directors, and boards, providing excellent training, expert consultancy, facilitation, and business coaching. He's also an expert in corporate governance, knowledge management, and corporate strategy. He has been a resource person for the Institute of Directors Ghana since April 2007 and has been consulting and providing training for a number of public, private, and non-governmental institutions such as Graphic Corporations Group, the National Insurance Commission, Engine Ghana Limited, Care International. Our resource person today is the CEO of Tetrabyte Consult Limited, which specializes in providing management and IT training and consulting services also. It is good to know that he's also the owner of Continental Books and Stationery Services, an online bookshop. It is my pleasure now to welcome Reverend Dr. Frederick Ofosu-Darko as our Chief Resource Person for this evening's presentation on the topic, Crafting Effective Corporate Strategies for Turban Business Environments. Thank you. Reverend Dr. Frederick Ofosu-Darko, you are welcome to the platform and to the discussion today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, CEO, Mr. Radio. Thank you very much. And good evening to my audience. Ladies and gentlemen, you are all welcome to this roundtable discussions. And I'm going to, as has been mentioned already, discuss the topic, crafting effective corporate strategy for turbulent business environment. Now, to begin with, I would want to talk about the rationale or the need for such a topic for Institute of Directors. In the first place, all directors, whether executive, non-executive, or chairman, or what position you occupy on the board, you are required to understand how to create an effective corporate strategy. In fact, for the CEO, it is part of his job description. And for the directors, non-executive, and chair, it is beyond that, because when the CEO and the management team put together the strategy, they need to bring it to the boardroom, and the board members need to understand it to the extent that they can make the necessary changes if the need arises. In other words, they can make significant change to the strategy. So basically, it is for all leadership, CEOs, managing directors, executive, non-executive directors, to understand what strategy is all about. Not only that, but also to be able to craft a very good strategy that will bring their company to a point of success. So in other words, it is a critical success factor, a skill that is really needed for your company to be able to survive, or even to be able to grow and achieve exploits. So that is the rationale and the essence. And that is why I think all leaders, business leaders, board members, executive, non-executive directors, chairman, everybody needs to understand how to craft a very good strategy. Now let's move on. So on this note, I have to do a quick overview of what the traditional method of crafting corporate strategy is all about. Just a quick one, so that we can now look at how the turbulence of the environment has affected it. So in the first place, the organization needs to come up with its own vision. Now, when we talk about vision, is the big picture. As in terms of where the organization wants to be in the future, maybe 10, 15 years. And that picture is really, let's say, big, and we call it a dream, because you cannot immediately actualize it. It needs to take time, and it points to where you want to be. So, like we talk about dreams, yes, it can be referred to as a dream, a big picture. And also, in fact, someone sang a song, we said, If you dream, dream big, as bigger as the ocean. In other words, if you achieve it, you have hit it. So dreaming big is good. But that is not all. The director needs to cast the vision. In other words, he needs to sell the vision out for others to buy in. So in that case, before I will follow you, I need to know your vision. And I need to know whether your vision will land me into success. And whoever carries the vision must sell the vision. And whoever follows must buy the vision. So vision is mandated, is requested of every leader who wants to be followed or wants to be worked for. Now, the next point is that out of this vision, you need to announce your presence, and that's the mission. The mission simply means your relevance in the society, the purpose for which you exist, and how the society should know you and know what you are doing or your impact in the society. For example, let me give you a simple company like Bell Aqua. The moment I mention Bell Aqua, there is a representation. Quickly, you know that, oh, they provide water for drinking. Not only that, other refreshment and soft drinks. So you realize that the mission itself, shows the purpose for their existence. However, both for mission and vision, you need to clearly come out with the statement, mission statement, vision statement, so that all stakeholders, after they have read or encountered your vision, can make a decision whether they should invest into your company or not. So then it is required of the leadership to come up with that vision and mission statement. That's what you go to all offices and they are displayed at the office, just to let everybody know where we are going and what we stand for in society. Now, the next step is that once you have come out with this statement, you need to set your goals, big goals, and of course, you break down into objectives. Now, the goals are what you ultimately want to achieve periodically, either long-term, medium-term, or short-term. And then in a short term, you break them into those activities that are required. Now, once that is done, you will clearly know that this is where I am, but my goal is to achieve in 15 years, then you can point to the future. But how do you get to the future? How do you get these goals achieved? How do you get this objective actualized? Now, that calls for, and you can see clearly there's a gap between where you are and where you want to be, where, so long as your goals and objectives are concerned. Therefore, that gap calls for a plan, a strategic plan. And that plan, in other words, we can refer it to as the roadmap to where you can achieve your final objective. The roadmap, most of the time, is being referred to as that. So then strategic planning has to come in there. But you don't just get up and plan. You need to do your strategic analysis, which refers to where you scan your business environment, external business environment, to determine the factors that are favorable to you and the factors that are unfavorable to your business. And in this case, if they are not favorable, you mitigate against it. You try to work against it. And if they are favorable, then of course you take advantage and you move on with it. And the strategic tool for this analysis is pest analysis. Those who have been to the business school and others know pest analysis as a tool. Political, economic, social, and technological factors that has the tendency to affect your organization positively or negatively, favorably or unfavorably. So basically, you need to know what political factors, maybe laws enacted at Parliament, how does it affect me? Is it going to give me an opportunity or is it going to give me a challenge? You know it, and then you know how to position yourself to deal with it. When you come to the E, it's the economic factors. In fact, it refers more to the macroeconomic factors, where we are talking about inflation, exchange rates. I mean, all the factors that makes the economy somehow unstable. And these are the factors that you need to know how those factors are affecting your business. If you are import substitution or you are always importing, the foreign exchange, you should know how it's going to affect you. if you are maybe dealing with any other sector where you use fuel constantly, you should know how the inflationary factors of the fuel and other things are having impact on your business. Now, the social means the lifestyle and change. Because of technology and so many other factors which are yet to come, lifestyle has changed. And so if your product or what you are doing, you need to learn to know how there are preferences in terms of preferences of the society for your product, or whether they have moved on as a result of taste to another product. So you need to investigate all this using the external factors. But as for technology, it has been the main big challenge when it comes to analyzing, because technology is running very fast and is being used to drive competition in the business sector. So you need to know how technology is affecting your business and how to position or reposition yourself to take advantage of it or to mitigate the loss. So this is basic for everybody to know as the traditional way of trying to understand your business environment. But then we also have the SWOT, which combines both the internal and the external analysis. Now, the S stands for strength, the W stands for weaknesses, and this is quite internal, looking at the strength within your organization, the core competences, the critical success factor within. What factors are giving you the edge to be able to compete favorably or gain competitive advantage? Weaknesses, do your competitors have more than you and all that? You look at that. And then once you are aware of it, you convert your strength. You work on your strength to take up with opportunities, but your weaknesses, you convert it into strength. You find a way of doing that. Then the other two is opportunities and threats. There are many opportunities that comes up after you've done the analysis. The first instance, if you're a coward, you tell yourself, as for this, it's too big for me, I cannot even make an attempt. So you are not going. But let me tell you the truth. Opportunities are meant to be seized. It is not on silver platter. So once you see the opportunities, yes, there will be all kinds of suggestions and whatever that tells you that you cannot achieve it. But at the same time, you need to think beyond yourself, your organization, and make the attempt, if you so desire, to seize the opportunity. That's the reason why we say we seize opportunity. Then as for threats, they are constant. They are always there. Every time there's a threat to your company, your competitors are threats, but find ways and means of converting this threat also into your strengths. So basically, you realize that with these tools for analysis, you can easily find your way. All things being equal, if your business environment is quite stable and not turbulent, you can work with this. Now, the next is, once you have scanned this environment very well, the next step is to find out the strategic options that you have, because you're exposed to a lot of knowledge about your environment. So you check the strategic options, make evaluations quickly, and then make a choice among the options that you have generated. Once that is very clear, you are good to go because you've made a choice. There you can put down your strategic planning straight away. This plan document may come out. Then at the tail end of it, it translates into your budget, because you are looking at the resources which you can use, implement the strategy. And to know the value of it, you go through budgeting. So the last stop of your strategic plan, you create a budget to know exactly how to go about implementing, and then raise money to support implementation. So implementation also comes with a strategy. Implementation strategy. The first step is that you break down the strategy down into the various functional areas and operational areas. And this is what comes to our table as our job functions and our operative, whatever we are supposed to achieve. It stems out from the strategy and is distributed to everybody to perform. So if we perform our parts very well, we are ultimately achieving the overall goal. Now, in doing so, you need to really make sure that we get a feedback from everybody's performance, either from the functional role or from the operational role. And this is what we call the reporting system. This reporting system is part of and parcel of the, let's say, monitoring, evaluation, and eventually it leads to review. So you can see the flow of that traditional system. We monitor after the reports have come, and all these go back to the senior management, back to the CEO, straight to the boardroom, and then decisions are made again, review are made, and then strategies can be changed or they can be confirmed as being so good, and we keep on with it. So let me say, in a nutshell, this, let's say, is the traditional. There are many more tools for analysis and many more issues, but let's keep it here because this is not the main agenda that we are discussing today. Now let's move a step forward. So it becomes like a cycle, strategic management process. So you realize that we have setting an objective. It goes through other processes. We select the strategies, we implement the strategies, we review these strategies, evaluate, and then the cycle goes on. So this is the traditional approach in terms of the strategic management process cycle that we follow. And then let's go to the main issue today. Crafting strategy in an uncertain environment or uncertain business environment. Now, in the world is now changing so quickly that no business can plan for every eventuality. Now, crafting strategy in such an uncertain business environment, directors often struggle to cope with volatility in the company's business environment using the traditional strategic planning model that I just finished talking about. So most companies, directors are stuck with a conventional technique for strategy making, even in the face of extreme volatility in the business environment. So then, crafting strategy in a turbulent environment, basically we're saying that these complexities challenges directors' abilities to interpret the business environment or surroundings quickly, and also enable them to respond to change in their environment. When it is volatile, there is the challenge. They cannot interpret the environment easily. Some may not even realize. Now, so the business environment, let's try to talk about it in general. You know, business environment is, the question is, what is business environment turbulence? There, that's right. So complex environment that change rapidly are labeled turbulent environment. If it's rapid, then it's turbulent. Now, business environment turbulence refers to the degree to which the firm's external environment is changing by unpredictability, uncertainty, and volatility. We can take example of our months ago, beginning of the year. I think it was around less than 10 cities or so. But today, we are all the way, and every month it is changing. This is what can be described as volatile. It is unpredictable. We don't even know when it will be increased again. And this is volatility. Now, more formally, it is defined as unpredictability and the rate of changes in a firm's external environment. Let's move on. Okay. So we are still on the turbulence, what it is. Environmental turbulence can occur in several ways. The first factor is technology turbulence. Then intensity of competition. And of course, the market turbulence, regulations can also bring about that. Now, the biggest factor is due largely to the technological changes. Technology is changing so rapidly that it creates a lot of disturbance for companies that are not willing to catch up with the technology. And so it's the biggest factor that makes the business environment very turbulent. The high intensity of competition is also another factor. Market, which is marked by customers' composition changes, behavior, and preferences. So as long as the customers are deciding and making decisions and making preferences of purchasing less cost product than yours, then it's affecting your company. You need to do something about it. In a nutshell, environmental turbulence refers to unpredictable changes, developments, and uncertainties in a firm's external environment. And it consists of market turbulence, like I've said already, technological turbulence, competition intensity. It causes a shortening of a firm's product lifecycle and changes in behaviors in terms of customer demands and rapid technological developments. So you realize that your product life cycle may be cut short because of the preferences and competition. When it becomes so keen, others move away from your product. Gradually, your product dies. The impacts of turbulence or the impact of turbulent business environment. Now, the first one is that companies do not control. In other words, companies lose control. They do not control changes in the external environment. Second, in addition, they cannot manage change by using traditional methods where environmental factors are constantly changing. That's environmental turbulence and strategic plans might be reconsidered in today's business world. So this is the idea we need to have, because we cannot continue going the way we do things with the traditional method whilst everything keeps changing rapidly. We need to reconsider. So then, rapid change, interpretations, and response to change in the external business environment becomes an extremely difficult task for directors and leaders to handle, which is something we need to be aware of. Now, turbulent business environment consists of factors which are beyond the control of directors, as I've stated earlier. This becomes evident after conducting your external environmental analysis. For example, the pest, the SWOT that we handled from the beginning. Now, when you have done that, then you realize that, oh, I did my strategy. Normally the companies will go on a crusade, or I don't know how to, they go on a retreat. That's right. And they go and craft a strategy for the whole year. They bring it back to the office and begin to implement. And sometimes they review this only quarterly, or may not even attempt to review. And so how do you ensure that the strategy that you have crafted is just going to be implemented successfully and you are successful? Most of the time, it has been a gap, but let's see. So this becomes evident by conducting the external environment regularly if you continue to do that. So it affects the decisions, the strategies, the processes, and performance of the business. And also provides opportunities, you see, on the other hand, yes, but also poses threats in the organization. So this turbulence may also give you opportunities if you look at it critically. So when there is too much turbulence in the market environment, the business operation becomes unstable, resulting either in poor competition, stiff competition, or sometimes there are no new entrants. The whole industry begins to die. Okay. The intensity of the environment should be premeditated. So you see, you need to have a strategy where you know that it's now changing faster. So I must be looking forward to it and I must be planning towards it, premeditated. And strategic plans should be prepared according to the turbulence intensity. So this is that we have to be on our toes. That is what we say. Now let's look at a few examples here. Now, due to the COVID-19 epidemic, businesses faced high environmental turbulence. That's during the period of 2019 to 2021. Now, although we are now in the post-COVID-19 era, developments such as the effect of the global trade wars, the Ukraine-Russia war, and the most recent Israel-Hamas war show that environmental uncertainties and turbulence will continue for a while, because these factors have also come in to create that problem. Now, where we've got to, we're going to look at a few strategies here, which are called the toolkit for strategy making under uncertainty, the toolkit. And we'll pinpoint some key points here. Now, we believe that directors and business leaders need to reconsider, as I've said already, what good strategy looks like in a turbulent times, and to think of strategy making as a continuous process. So now strategy making is not reserved to the last quarter of the year, but it must continue. Now, my suggestion to directors or to us is that now the board, instead of having, they have committees, and sometimes they have finance, which looks at budget committee, and that committee is a standing committee. In other words, they are working continuously. In times like this, we need to have monitoring and evaluation committee that looks at whether the strategy is going well or not and fixes the changes. Therefore, there must be continuous monitoring. That is, and strategy must be continued as a process. So they have the strategy committee. That is a standing committee working continuously and not an ad hoc that comes to present results every quarterly. Very good. Let's move on. We also in the toolkit said develop a best case, worst case, and base case scenario. This have been found in budgeting. Most of the time we have various, that depends on probability and all that. And then that should be as a way forward, but that is not all. Now, looking at scenarios in that way often produces incremental thinking. So once you look at one option, you begin to look at another option, and then you make choices. Now, this will only bring some tweaks in the company's current direction rather than a wholesale change in the course, because you tweak from one scenario to the other. Now, which is often what is needed, but then the breakthrough insight comes from examining what we call extreme but conceivable scenarios, right? Now, the goal of this analysis is not to understand what outcome is most probable, but to uncover new and different ways to win or to compete and win. So when you are monitoring, you are evaluating, and you are looking at your strategy, you are also looking at new and different ways to compete and to win, right? Another key point is about flexibility. In an uncertain world like this, flexibility has tremendous value. Strategic flexibility has a variety of sources. A typical one is the technology that we can use for this. Yeah. So to become more adaptable to changing conditions, directors and business leaders must approach performance monitoring with a new mindset. So the central question cannot be, how did we perform? But now instead, it must be, how or should we change or alter our course? So now we are looking at a radical approach. After we have dealt with our monitoring effort, should we change instead of have we performed well, right? Directors and business leaders must understand the root cause of any performance shortfall or any failure. You don't stop and say we failed. Go to the roots of it so that I can deal with it. So the desire to find ways to overcome turbulence and create growth and success from turbulence must drive them to think and act fast. So we must also believe that we can still chance opportunity or seize opportunity in a turbulent environment. All is not lost. So that should be our attitude. Now, directors said they must prepare contingency plans that can be put into motion speedily to address any significant change in markets or competitive conditions. So plan A, plan B, plan C. You must always be ready to switch to another plan because the environment is what? Turbulent, and you must be ready for those scenarios. So firms should be, now here, innovations are required. In such times, you need to innovate. So innovations required in turbulence environment. That is it. So firms should be innovation-oriented and quickly respond to changes to survive in this turbulent environment. Companies exposed to high environmental turbulence factors should manage uncertainty, minimize risk, internalize proactive perspective, and rapidly implement all kinds of strategies that will strengthen their creativity. Here also creativity comes in. In this time, you need to create. They said the necessity is the mother of what? Inventions. So we need to be creative. So as firms, as we are exposed to high environmental turbulence, we will only be successful by focusing on their strategic and operational efficiency. Now, my emphasis is on operational efficiency. They say cut your coat according to your size. You have to make sure that you're operating efficiently. There's no wastage, there's no spillover, because the resources are not available and the environment is changing. So if you cut some luxuries, you'll be able to help the organization. So these days, most organizations during this period are cutting salaries, are doing redundancies, taking certain privileges off. They are all about operational efficiency. And workers believe that, yes, if that is done and at least I have continuity of my job, why not? So this is operational efficiency. Don't continue to do things the way you do, thinking that some magic will happen. No, there must be operational efficiency. The concept here, we move on to the concept of strategic agility. This is a way forward of managing with the turbulence. So the wind of change and uncertainty factors, which are difficult to predict, hinder the implementation of long-term strategic plans and highlights the concept of strategic agility. So we have already mentioned that the longer strategic plan is having challenges with the turbulence, but what we need now is strategic agility. Now, the concept of strategic agility was defined as the ability to create the right product in the right place at the right time and the right price, meaning your timing, you must be precise, right? Okay, sorry for the delay. So strategic agility allows one to be more sensitive to environmental factors in the planning phase of firm's strategy. So, and reorganize the firm in the face of uncertainty by making quick decisions. So after you have come up with environmental analysis, there and then you are trying to make some decisions and some changes before you even move forward. Strategic agility can be briefly defined, as the dynamic change of the resources and competencies of the firm. Firms adapt to changes and improve competitiveness through strategic agility. The concept of strategic agility has been accepted in the literature and thanks to the researchers. And it has recently become the most emphasized topic. Agility has emerged as a concept that can handle changes. Many studies in the literature show that strategic agility positively affects performance. Thank you. Questions and answers? CEO, I'm done.
Thank you very much for such a wonderful presentation. You have shared many insights into your topic of crafting effective corporate strategies for turbulent business environment. Indeed, we have moved from COVID, we've moved to Ukraine, the Russian war, and perhaps now we understand a little bit about the Palestinian, the Hamas, and the Israeli conflict and how it will impact on some of us. Thank you, Reverend Dr. Frederick Ofosu-Darko, for the presentation. It is my pleasure now to open the floor for any discussions, any contributions, anything that our honorable members would like to add. Thank you. Let me read the chat box. Yes, you will get the recording once it's completed. Yes, Julius, the slides will be shared. If there are no questions, let me ask a question. So, Dr. Frederick Ofosu-Darko, in these turbulent times when a business is trying to look at its strategy, how do you look at the impact on its human capital base? Should companies strategize to keep their human capital, or should companies start to strategize to use more of AI and more of third-party contractors to effect their strategies?
All right, thank you very much. And I think this is technological influence, which has been a general problem worldwide. It's not only even in Ghana, where companies are taking advantage of artificial intelligence to sort of replace most of the human capital that are required. Now, that means that I will not say no, they shouldn't take, because it comes at a less cost and it's competitive and it gives them opportunity to do better. So then they must look at the human resource in a way where they could retrain them to do other things that the computer probably has taken over. And even the staff themselves, those who are working, if you realize that the turbulence is affecting the companies and is to soon affect you as an individual, because technology or AI is taking your job, you quickly need to rethink and retrain. So most of the time is about retraining, because we cannot say, because, let me give you a scenario. Supposing you have a land to clear, and you have people who are hungry, who are ready to weed, and they are begging you. It will take them 2 months to weed that land. But when you bring a tractor, it will take 2 days. And you really want to move fast. What will be your choice? Will you say that, well, because people are hungry, let me take 2 months to clear the land? Or, well, let me use the tractor. This is where the challenge is. So then, retraining must be the concept. And even right at the school, people should begin to look at areas where they can survive, because it's a turbulent environment. It is coming and it is changing everything. I hope you are answered. See you.
Yes, thank you very much for that. We have a question and a contribution from Professor Hettel.
Very good.
I just want to know, how do you carry the public and the investors along? how effectively do you carry your investors and the public along? Because some of the investors may not be on board with you.
Mm.
How do you carry them along?
Mhm. Very good question. So, I just described this innovation. I talked about continuous strategy and all that. So the point is that carrying them along, you don't have to be stuck to your traditional ways of doing things, but rather have to move on rapidly. So in that case, I mentioned that as a board, instead of having quarterly review of your strategic plan or maybe what you're achieving, you need a continuous. In that case, you are arresting the situation as and when it happens. And therefore, if there is the need to go back to them as emergency to approve anything, you don't wait till the end of the year. You get that approval and you make the changes. In this case, you bring them into the picture of the situation because they cannot assume that, well, once my money is invested, I don't care whatever you do. They must understand the environment within which they are going through. So if they are giving the picture and they are giving the opportunity to also contribute or to also bring their views along, then of course, you are keeping them in line. But if you wait till everything goes down, that is where you have a question to answer. Prof.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
I see a hand up. You may make your contribution.
Hello, good evening, Prof. And um, my boss. I think it's been a very insightful training for some of us. And one or two issues that I have, I think have been resolved by our presenter, and I'm so grateful. My issue has to do with in the public sector, where we find ourselves in this part of the world, especially Ghana, and the public service, where nobody wants to hear of strategy. How do you convince boards of organizations, management to buy into this issue of strategy so that we will be able to stand when this turbulent times meet us? That is my first question. And my follow-up question has to do with the budgeting. Looking at the strategic management processes, you made mention of having your strategic options and planning through budgeting and all that. In your budgeting, what are some of the key factors that you are supposed to, as it were, consider so that you can come up with a very good strategy in order to help your organization to sustain whatever pressure that will come in future? Thank you so much for the opportunity, sir.
Thank you. Right. Let me tackle your budget situation first. You see, you are going the reverse. It is not the budget that determines the strategy. It is the strategy that determines your budget. And therefore, the plan will then have to be quantified in monetary terms. And that is what we call budget. So supposing you are building a house, and you know within a year we must build this house, and you have that strategic plan to build that house. The next thing is to put the values in terms of the foundation is going to cost us this much, this one is going to cost us, and that is how you build your budget. And if it's insufficient, that is where you review your budget and find more resources to be able to take care of the strategy. So we don't go the reverse way. We rather get budgets done because we want to implement our strategy. That is that one. And then with the public sector or whatever you're talking about, I'm so sad that, you know, it's been like that today, and I don't know when they will change. Because the key point is that most of the time, they don't care about their expenditures. All they think is that, well, once allocated with this kind of expenditure, I'm going to go through, whether there's money or no money. And so this is where most of the time their budget will be insufficient for whatever they are supposed to do. And most of the time to the strategic plan, it's so sad. When they tell the CEO that you are supposed to craft a strategy and it's your duty, whatever, what people mostly do is that, yes, they come up with a strategic document, but unfortunately, the document remains on the desk the whole year, and it may not be referred to until finally. So this, I know the government needs to come clear with certain processes and certain procedures to deal with strategies first, let alone the turbulence. So we have a double silence, double trouble.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, we have a question from Dr. Azam Sabati. Good evening, Dr.
Yes,
Sabati.
yes. Good evening, and thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation. It was very insightful indeed. I have a question actually, because one of the issues with the turbulent environment is that it is very tricky indeed. The question would be how to monitor, anticipate, identify, and even react fast enough to those changes as they present themselves to companies and directors. Hello?
Yes, we are listening. Please go on.
Sorry, let me say it again. The question would be for firms and directors is how to be able to monitor, anticipate, identify, and react in good time to these changes that are occurring.
Okay. I think I have mentioned it and I've answered it earlier, but let me re-emphasize. We normally have board committees which are giving terms of reference to do certain jobs. Now, some of these committees are standing committees, others are ad hoc committees. If I say standing, they are working throughout the year non-stopping. And then if I say ad hoc, they are those who might report quarterly or even, anytime there's board meeting. But I'm recommending that instead of having only finance committee to be standing, we should also have strategic management committee that is working throughout the year, could meet even monthly. And they will be doing the monitoring and evaluation and the review of the strategy. So every month they sit down, yes, this is our strategy, this is where, and then when it comes to a situation where they realize that there's the need for a change, they quickly take the necessary steps so that they can change. And that is why even if it calls for an emergency or something, a meeting, they don't need to seek approval to make the necessary changes. So it means that if you're on the board in times like this with your strategy, you must be on your toes. You shouldn't sit down for things to go wrong completely before you make attempt to arrest it. I hope you answered.
Thank you very much, yes.
All right.
We do have a question, Doctor. It says that, please, is agility the same as strategic drift?
Agility really looks at the swiftness with which you are solving the problem. But the drift looks at the turbulence at the same, it goes with the same level of the turbulence. It's drifting and you can't catch up. You don't have control over it and it's still going. Strategic drift, various drifts. But agility is a solution. It's a kind of a solution because your swiftness to arrest the situation is what we call strategic agility. I hope you answered.
Yes. Do we have any more contributions, any more clarifications, any more inputs from us?
Yes, sir. I would like to come back with this follow-up question. I think when our presenter is making his presentation, he made mention of the process of the strategic agility being how to resolve this strategic agility is where we are able to produce at the right time with the right product for right people and all that. Now, how can an organization's strategic management team? Arrest this issue or come to realize where the shift is heading to, so that they will be able to determine what product we should produce and what time and what type of market segment we should produce for.
Very good. So thank you very much for that question. This is the time that, because of the turbulence, we need not to sit down. And that is one key thing. It calls for a lot of work. It calls for a lot of research. It calls for a lot of investigations. It calls for so many things. So this is the time you need the right caliber of directors or staff or people to be able to get the right information for you to be able to do that kind of job. You know, maybe businesses have to operate like FBI or investigative companies, but the turbulence is what we are talking about. Are you getting the point? So yes, you cannot throw your hands in the air and sit back and say, oh, this is too much for me. That is the point. If you want to survive, then you need to begin with your researches. You begin to find out the industry, the competitiveness, the whatever. You do it, you work at it. In fact, most of us are lazy. We are not doing it at all. We refuse to even scan our environment very well. And sometimes our competitors, we don't even want to find out whatever they are doing. Are you getting my point? Sometimes you need to get in some change agents or sometimes it's not too good to have a strategic management consultant or some whatever, because he cannot impose his ideas on you. All he needs is to coach you. But you need some direction and some support. And you need to work with some seriousness. That is the point.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
So thank you, everyone. Indeed, it has been a very, very interesting, thought-provoking presentation for all of us. I'll just read just the last ones. Mr. Herbert Lawson, a council member, says, are we not belaboring the effects of the Russian-Ukraine and Israel-Hamas conflict as the main creators of this turbulence? What other factors are causing this turbulence? And we also have another gentleman, Ellen, saying the HR impact really bothers me in an environment where we see so many people unemployed. Should we also not be looking at innovative ways of keeping people employed for ethical and social cohesion reasons? As for AI, we need to apply the ethical lens. For me, that will become a strategic issue. For instance, I'm personally watching and refusing to deal with companies managing customers with AI chat boxes rather than train humans. On this note, thank you all very much for your very insightful contributions. It is my pleasure to invite the President and Chair of the Governing Council of the IoD Institute of Directors Ghana, Reverend Mrs. Angela Kamanapia, to give us her closing remarks. Madam President, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Redu, and thank you very much, Reverend Dr. Ofosudako. Indeed, this has been a very insightful presentation. I would call this an opportunity for us to reflect on our practice. This is what you call a lot of food for thought. We are committed to ensuring that we provide you opportunities as much as possible for us all to reflect on who we are and who we want to become, of the environments in which we are and the environments that we are desirous of having. Today, we have been challenged to up our ante. Are we going to take the bulls by the horn? Are we still going to bolt the stable gates after the horses have left? Ladies and gentlemen, let's continue to reflect and to provide ethical leadership, even as we continue to drum home our values of competence, professionalism, and integrity. On this note, please enjoy your evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Good evening to you all, and thank you for being part of this evening session. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you all as well.
Bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.